In this video I'm going to answer 3 questions. The first one is, what is a fraction? The second question is, where did it come from? And the third question is, why do we need it? I mean, most people don't even like fractions. Why are they so necessary? Why do we have to deal with them? Well, we're going to start with the last question. Why do we need them? Where do they come from? What's the necessity of a fraction? Well, when you start learning in math, you work exclusively in what are called the counting numbers. So 1, 2, 3, on up to infinity as far as you need to go. And they're called the counting numbers in number theory literally because they're the numbers we use to count things. 1, 2, 3. How many dogs do you have? 1, 2, 3. How many members of your family? 1, 2, 3, 4. So they are counting numbers, but they're also, eventually we have to add 0 because we need to describe the absence of value. We have no, how many candy bars do you have? I have no candy bars. I have 0. So we add 0 in, and then that number set becomes the whole numbers. And this is the significant name I want to zero in on. These are the whole numbers because they're whole. They describe a whole thing. But as time goes on, we realize we'll encounter situations where not everything can be described using whole numbers. Let's consider this scenario. Let me erase the whole numbers to give us room. Consider this scenario. You have a candy bar. One whole candy bar, and you're going to share it with a friend. And you've probably done this before. You don't have enough money for 2 candy bars, so you just get the 1 candy bar, and you're going to share it with your friend. So you decide to split it up. You break it up so that you both can have a piece. And maybe you've already learned the half terminology, so you say half. Maybe you don't even know what it is. But you split it in 2, trying to get as close to equal as you can, because you want to be fair, so you want you and your friend each want the same share of the candy bar. And that all works fine and good for a while in that situation. You break it up, get it close to equal, and you each share a piece. But in math and science, we need a way to describe this situation more precisely because not everything occurs in whole numbers. If you've ever taken a measurement on a ruler, you know that not everything aligns perfectly to a whole number. And this is true just for counting and dealing with situations. So we need a way to describe this. So where did the fraction come from? So that's why we need one. We need this a different type of number to describe parts. So where did the fraction come from? And we would call this 1/2 of the candy bar. Where did that come from? Well, I don't know the precise answer to that question, but I imagine it happened a little bit like this. Someone many years ago looked at a scenario like this and saw that they knew how to count using whole numbers. We have 1, 2 pieces of that candy bar, 2 separate pieces of the whole, and I get 1 of them, so I get 1 out of 2. So this literally means 1 out of 2 pieces that make up that whole candy bar. And my friend also gets 1 out of 2, so they get 1/2. And that's where it comes from. But this now is a precise number. It literally means exactly half of that candy bar. That if we cut it in half, each person's going to get exactly the same amount. And that's what fractions are for. So that's kind of where they came from. And since, let's just go ahead and define a fraction, really what it is, what the meaning of the terminology and what the numbers mean is this 1/2. 1 out of 2 is what part of the whole I get. So a fraction literally means part of the whole. And in our case, part of the whole number. We can't describe this candy bar as a whole because we cut it in half to share it. So we're now describing it, what we get, as part of that whole candy bar. So fractions part of a whole, and this is a little bit of why we need them. Now we can extend this, of course. Maybe our candy bar is a little bit bigger. We have another friend we want to share with. So we have now 1, 2, 3 parts that we're breaking it up into. Or 3 parts that we're breaking it up into, and we each get 1 of those pieces. So we get 1 out of 3 pieces of that whole candy bar. Now for this practice activity, we're just going to have you model. For the first practice activity here, we're just going to have you model some various fractions just like these. It's going to be really easy. It's going to take you very little time. So if I give you a fraction like 1/3, draw a box like this, kind of a rectangle, split it as close to 3 as you can, And then we're going to shade in the piece that this represents. So it only is talking about this one part of it, not the whole thing, just this one piece. So I'm going to have you practice with a few of those fractions. This is going to be a really simple activity, but what we're trying to do is create a visual, literally we're trying to create a visual connection in your brain that helps you remember really what a fraction is when you're working with them. Because as you get busy, numbers get harder, and the problems get longer, you'll forget what you're doing when you're dealing with a fraction. We want to make sure you remember well down the road.